They're talking. Run for your life. Oh, and the actual config? Oh, I mean, I could probably just sign in as a cop or some shit. I don't know. Have a look. Skip. Actually, I'm just gonna go see. I'll read it. I'll just see if I can read it real quick. Yeah, I mean, the reality of this either way is like even with how we set this up, like the entire idea of this character was purely for like legislation pieces anyway. So unless they get to the point where okay, so yeah, all right, I can make myself a cop, I guess. Fuck it. YOLO. Koil. Police. Is this even gonna work? I don't even know if this is gonna work. Wait, I'm already a cop? Oh, that's crazy. I don't know if this is automated. Hopefully it is. That would be superb. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go talk to these fucking jackasses, dude. You know, I think it's fucking cooked. I don't think we get a... Yeah, yeah, whatever. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Recent MT? I don't care. I don't think it's not going to affect anything that happens anyway. I'll just argue like which points they would argue, because I think everything they're going to argue would be like, yeah, but you can do that through court here, so. I think also like I get the whole, you know, keys removal offline shit, but at the same time, who cares? Like it's definitely not the most fun way to do it, but at the same time, I just think like the whole offline online thing isn't that strange, considering half of everybody will talk offline as well about roleplay. So
is it Patrick Wall?
You guys are responsible for impeachment hearing.
It's not true, but
Authority conduct review. All the big
oh,
stuff.
hi there.
Hello.
Well, from what I see in the legislations, there's nothing necessarily contradicting the other legislation. It does say that impeachment, is a process that can occur, but this doesn't say that it overrides the other, just that there would be a separate way of removing somebody from the office. Though, there's definitely things in there that I could see argued on both sides, but I'm not sure there would be anything that I would myself enforce to change. But in saying that, I believe, you know, with the right procedures, if you guys should be able to come to a conclusion. Though, in saying that, I haven't read any of the reports on Mr. Other Mayor that probably also smells like dust. I don't understand what happened prior to that. I could see the argument no due process was had occurred, but the due process, in my opinion, in this situation, that I would argue if I was opposing it, would have been the due process in court in which he had already received the punishments. So whether or not that was due process, I don't know. But since there is charges, then I could see a logical way of arguing it, at least on their side. I'd be curious if there is a key point to the law itself that you would point to, Mr. Mayor, that would emphasize specifically that there was a breach of legislation or the Constitution itself. I might be missing something as well.
With the action towards Fred, it's actually exactly what I was arguing while you were gone. Is there was no due process. What it should have either been a ruling at the end of the initial court case, or number two, a ACR or impeachment in which this was presented, right? He did this. This is the legislation. Simple, open and shut impeachment case. Or the third is a writ of some kind, right? It could have been a writ of mandamus to a justice to say he is to be removed. Um, Based on my understanding, none of the justices actually made the decision. Rather, some judges got together and just took his keys. So I'm even arguing, is he even not a mayor right now? Where's the documentation?
Well, that would be another debate in itself. So the key points in what I see here is due process is generally when there is a proceeding and a debate on the law itself. So, like I said, I believe the due process did happen because he wasn't necessarily being charged for anything afterwards. It was a more of a guideline within a government facility to be removed from your role if you were to pass a threshold. So the due process is irrelevant in this scenario because I don't believe there's anything written in there that indicates they would be charged with anything, or technically there would be laws to be debated.
So the things that I think would be brought up is Pride actually asked for the usage of the diversion program, which would seal the charges and prevent him from this legislation even from being enacted. However, there was not time during the trial to do it, and with the inference that if this was used, it would be via an impeachment. These charges inherently would not have been on there to begin with.
Yes. So, listen, I'm not saying, like I said, I could see multiple ways, even with how I'd read through it, that there is even inconsistencies in ways you could interpret from both sides on, whether or not this would even fall upon the mayor. Are we talking about the members under the mayor? Does this belong to this process, or is it for the mayor himself? I get there's plenty of different ways that you could argue certain things, but for me, in my opinion, I wouldn't say, without all of the information, that something is necessarily violated in a way that I would change anything at the moment, is all I'm saying. So, like I said, both sides could definitely argue a point here, and I believe that's what the court is for. So, I would love for that to happen. And see where that takes it. But that's not to say that this piece of legislation is very well written, and how it correlates to other laws could be very heavily emphasized and changed. But there's doubt. There's definitely doubt there. I see. So I'd suggest, well, if you're a justice, sir, perhaps talking to the justices about this privately without input from others, and then having some sort of process with that, if you believe. I don't know your side either, but I think if there's less interactions with you discussing this law, and there's more a formal document written and saying there's an issue, it would start a process that could eventually get to a point where it comes to our table too, if it needs to get there. But I believe logically something can happen before that. I mean, the Constitution also states everybody is, right to their privacy, securities, and all that sort of stuff. And there's also a debate that if a county is not run by the mayor and they all love him and adore him, then are they voting and their voices being heard properly? So who knows where it could end up? But I'm not sure. And I don't want to read 7,000 different documents to have an opinion. So I'd say, do what you guys can do and see where it ends up.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else by chance that is more focused around the legislations, implementations, all that sort of thing? Because I don't really want to argue the semantics of a case like that, if possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's some pointed questions. What authority makes that decision as to whether to enact any piece of legislation. Who has the ultimate authority on removal of a mayor or a justice, etc.?
Well,
Can a judge do it? Is what I'm getting at, because a
if
judge removed
if
his keys.
That is
We're wondering
not
if that's
accurate.
even legal. Oh,
I'm not sure. I have no
Is
idea, and if
a
there's
group
not
decision is what
legislation
we're
written
talking
for
about.
it, who knows? Like I said, if you're to go and ask every person in the other county, what is it, Blaine Dogshit County, if you were to ask them and they all believe that their mayor is the right one and whatnot, then, maybe the Constitution could fight against it because, they have their rights as well. Their vote matters. And if they all don't like that legislation, it can be removed. But who would remove their keys anyway if it isn't a judge or a justice? For me, a judge is well within their rights to do that sort of thing. But at the same time, if it's not written, it's also one of those questions that it could also be argued heavily on both sides. So I don't know.
that makes sense. In via your, I think that's all I got, to be honest. You guys, any constitutional questions that we brought up in the last couple things that you want to bring up with the governor here while we have him?
We're in agreement on a lot of it. So.
Oh, actually, I do have a question. This is regardless. I had a legislation that I put through before towards prescription marijuana, and it was deemed conflicting with the current dosage law, and that I needed to have an agreement from
You
both
are
mayors.
medical, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, you should be passing medical law without anybody to dispute it. The only way they can contest your legislation pieces are the same way it happens with the DOJ. If they do case law, there's no contestation. If you do medical law, there's no contestation. Why would a judge be telling a fucking medical professor what the fucking doctors should be doing? It doesn't make any sense.
From my understanding, the
Thank you.
issue was that it contradicted current standing legislation in regards to the legality of drugs. It is
Well.
medical, but also veers into the ability from each
Sure.
side of the state to actually determine what is legal and illegal within the county.
Well, your power is equal to theirs in terms of how you push through your legislation. And if it is medical oriented, they cannot dispute that. Sure, they can change their charges around that, but they can only contest it after it has been pushed through. If it's focused on health related things. I assume you didn't write anything that was going to say, I want to change the law.
It made it
No.
so a certain amount of legislation would be legal to possess above the current limit. So, if it were
For
legal
medical
for someone
reasons.
to have,
Yes,
yes,
exactly.
yes.
It's
But
prescription
for example,
marijuana.
So, say for example, if someone had 5 joints for medical purposes, but then had 20 joints just to, I don't know, attempt to sell or something, and the current law says it's illegal above 20, they would be fined still, since that legal amount would minus from it. If that makes sense.
Yes, I
I
understand.
think that was the concern.
So the laws themselves, you should consider the penal code and whatnot also a piece of legislation. Everything is legislation; it's law written. So while yes, they would be deemed of. I guess equal values, but the reality is the Constitution emphasizes that people have a right to health in this city. So that's why you're here. And if they're going to conflict a medical health professional, then they are likely the ones that would have issues in that scenario, not you. So if they had to deny these sorts of things, it could be very well argued, in my opinion, through law, that they are in breach of the Constitution and impeachable to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I
Fair with
believe
me.
there's multiple ways. There's two types. There's an impeachment, then there's also a sort of notice or
Authority
something.
conduct review.
Yes. So, obviously, when it comes to reviews and whatnot, I feel like they should come out a whole lot more because people likely won't be getting fired. Well, unless it's horrible, but generally there could be fines, suspensions and things like that. So, Either way, if you're to put medical things forward and they contest them, they are in violation, in my opinion, of the Constitution itself and how it's worded.
I appreciate that, sir.
Okay,
There are two other things I just remembered.
sure.
We were discussing as a part of this whole audit. Uh, After that came 3 separate audits that my office filed. I think it's been about 3 weeks now, approaching. Uh, I of the 3 things that were audited, all the justices had their signatures. I imagine it has not reached your desk yet. I put forward the following: given the fact that we had to rework the process document, and that
Mhm.
process document was a consequence of the FOIA legislation being what I call shadow edited. In other words, it was changed following a. I'll just tell you what happened. FOIA legislation was altered overnight after I requested a FOIA for myself.
Yes, I
Um,
do believe a lot of these issues were somewhat mentioned. But the reality is, and this is also what I think I emphasized in the letter, that the justices cannot pass laws unless it's based on cases that are being processed or some sort of dispute on the law itself. There should be no way for them to pass uncontestable. They can pass a law or try to pass legislation like that, but it is in contestation phase. So they shouldn't have been able to do it. Yes.
and so that leaves us kind of in this conundrum where we can go through auditing what is probably 6 or 7 documents, which does take time. Or alternatively, I am requesting that we actually revert it back and consider those up to what's been changed over the last 6 or 7 weeks. It's only about 6 documents. Revert those back, given that they never should have been done.
Well,
And if anything does need to change, that it would get reintroduced. And
so there's a slight issue with that.
Mhm.
While yes, the Constitution does imply that they shouldn't be contested when they're doing case law and should be otherwise, it is fine that it may have been misinterpreted or written differently when the legislations came through. So, while yes, there is a contradiction there, I don't think anybody had, well, for me, unless there's some sort of evidence of malicious activities or something like that passed on through with it, then I believe legislations should stay there. As with others, because the reality is, it sounds like a lot of legislations, including the medical, like just said, should have been passed and didn't. And if we open up a precedent which implies that legislation, if somehow altered or incorrect based on the Constitution, is changed, everything falls down before it. There's a very real possibility that we go through, issues where everything has to be redone again. And I
I agree. Um, so um, it was done maliciously, the FOIA one, in
allegedly.
which the writer admitted it to my face
Oh,
the
sure.
day after the
But
SAG
still,
letter,
allegedly, just in
uh,
case.
just in case. The question on the table isn't legally should it roll back, but we're discussing whether we can do it. And the reason why it's being weighed is to avoid what is likely 2 months of audits
Sure.
versus the ease of rolling it back
So,
in one full swoop
when you
and
say
then
we,
reassessing those.
are you talking the justice
This
as well,
this
right?
the 4 of us. It's an option.
Okay.
Understanding whether that's a option
An
that we can
option
use.
would be, I would be happy to have some sort of gathering and a meeting over it where it would be discussed and voted upon and, discussed properly. But I would not have the last say on what it would be. It would be there to discuss things and question things and make sure it is, held to a standard, I guess. But I don't believe you four should have any more power. It should be a voting process, a majority vote, essentially, if things that go through that sort of dynamic. So I'm not
Do
sure how
you
you would
think
do
we
it.
could do a referendum
So you're saying we should do like a city council?
Yeah,
No,
like
no,
a
whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh,
city
God,
council
hello?
No. Hey, let's
Uh,
not go into troll territory. Can we do? Would it be reasonable to do a referendum
So
for the vote of rolling things back?
you considered the council as a joke or a improper way of managing things, but you do understand that if you pass a law right now, it is contested, correct?
Yes.
Legislation, it can be contested. Consider this the same sort of method. If you are to make a vote to change legislation, it is only being contested based on a voting system. So if the majority of vote was to go through, it would be passing just like any other legislation. So I don't see it as an issue if there was a majority vote system that was fairly done. With the higher ups that would be any different from the current system itself. But in saying that, it would be nice, perhaps, if the people could also vote if you believe that would be a better option.
I'm with you. So we cannot do it. We should go through the official means that we have effectively agreed upon as per the letter that you have.
Yeah, well, yes, everything is to be contested unless it's based on those specific laws. But like I said, if you have enough justices, judges, or whoever would be voting on this to just agree on it, for instance, we have you guys are the high of the medical peoples, correct?
Mm-hmm. SEMA, yeah.
Yes,
That
we
makes
have
sense.
a mayor. We have 2 votes. If you were to vote, that is, then the justices, I believe, would have to vote. But considering there is no mayor, or unless there's somebody that would step in, I believe that is already a majority. Unless it is case law oriented and disputed, I'm not sure entirely, but a majority vote between you guys would likely be good. But obviously, you'd want the justices to also have an input. So you guys have the power that the council did have, really, as long as it's done in a
Yeah.
similar contested system or a vote process. It just saves you having to, I guess, go through everything step by step. But it's really the same thing. You contest it by talking or, having a discussion, and then it happens at the end.
That makes sense. And I presume the DOJ would get a singular vote to each of as a one legislative. Um,
Well, how does it work now in contention?
exactly the same way. Yeah.
Yes, so
that
it
makes
would, it would
sense.
be the same thing. Whatever the Constitution implies, and I believe it's medical, 2 mayors, and the justice. And saying that if it is contested by the end of it, it might be good that it goes through the state just to be double checked. But I believe yes, it just should be like any other system. In saying that, yes, I'd prefer not to discuss whatever it is, and you guys go through the process. And when it gets to me, it does. If not, that would be much more preferred. You have a lot of power. You just need to use it.
It's fair. I think I've been a little bit more of a backseat player in this. I don't want to misuse it in any way, but
Well, yes, in saying
Promise
that,
to
like I
stay.
said, if it comes to case law, I wouldn't be stepping on the toes of the justices because if it was to be contested, their opinion is probably going to be a little more valued in that area. Just like I'd have your opinion be more valued in the medical field, if that is to make sense. And for Mr. Mayor over here, if it was 12th grade English, capital letters, letter writing,
oh yes.
I'd take his opinion.
Well, I didn't actually write the document.
Oh, you signed it. The signature is as
I
good
did.
as anything.
I did.
Yes,
You
yes,
accepted
yes.
it.
Well, only because I couldn't be bothered reading it again.
Seemed to accept my second one too.
I don't recall that one, honestly.
Yeah.
Did I throw that in the bin?
I got another one for you.
Probably.
Well,
There is no defined unified police department. Does the state recognize one?
I have no idea. Depends on what's in the documentation. So when it's passed down from us, like, yes, we understand. We write the Constitution, and whatever is documented under that is the law of your state. We don't really have any other say on anything. So I don't know. I haven't read your laws, all of them anyway.
Right.
As per the Constitution, it references the counties having responsibility over the governance, public services, local laws, etc.
Mhm.
And
There's also
so,
some documentation that implies they both have jurisdiction in both areas, but while in the other
Yeah.
area, the other law enforcement officers are acting under the guidance of the current one. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how they have worded unified, but I believe, in my opinion, that would be a unified police department to an extent. It just depends on what law or whatever you'd be implying it's based on, or what they're overstepping, or if there's an issue or something. Sort of not
that
sure
makes
what
sense.
you.
Oh, sorry, that I was going to a different point separate from it.
Oh, sure.
So the counties have legislative authority over the governance, public services, et cetera, et cetera. To what extent does the mayor have responsibility over its police department, and in turn, the populace over its police department?
The populace, you said.
The populace, yeah, the voters, the citizenry.
Well, whatever you write in legislation. The reality is, the mayor is the people. The voice of the people. The law enforcement agencies are there for the people, paid by your very hard-earned tax dollars. So whatever your legislation says, everything that is written is your law. There should be no other, magical laws coming from other areas. It's just whatever you guys write, and how that's interpreted is the law. But with how the authorities are written, you are above them when it comes to writing law. So, yes, I mean, whatever you do is how it should be.
So theoretically, the mayor is the boss of their respective departments
If
by the people.
legislation says that.
Understandable.
If you want to be the boss of the police department, you would have to write that legislation so it's documented, then becomes law. And once it is law, it can be disputed, or, of course, you can be impeached if you're to break the Constitution. As long as it's written, it's
That
fine.
makes sense. Could an entire department be banned from a county?
That's totally up to you. Like I said, there'd be an argument, and I could understand it, based on constitution and protections. If you were to neglect people's security and things like that, people could maybe argue that. But I mean, there's nothing to say no to how you write your legislation. You can do what you want.
That makes sense.
The
Okay.
people are the power, though. You have to worry about the people. So if you have lots of money, I'm sure you can do anything.
I've got the votes, to be honest. Finally, the right to dignity. Does the right to dignity include law enforcement officers dating and marrying cop killers? And if that was something that was banned
No.
in the county of Los Santos from operating, would that be against the right to dignity, in your opinion?
So are you saying if someone was to ban or enforce a law that would say you cannot date a serial killer as a police
Well, not
officer?
that you can't date.
It's a good law.
You cannot patrol in the county of Los Santos if you're actively dating, married, engaged to a gang-affiliated cop killer. Would that go against the right to their dignity?
Well, the reality is dignity is viewed by every single person differently, so it would be entirely have to, be an argument in court. I think there's more to those sort of arguments, though. If I'm dating a fucking
my God,
serial
common
killer as a
sense.
police officer,
Oh,
what
no.
about
my
the
God.
security of my people? What about the security of the officers? There's plenty of other arguments to be had there too, but again, unless there's proof to indicate that has occurred, then I don't know. You'd need the evidence. If there's enough evidence for something to prove there's an issue, then sure, I don't see why not. I mean, it might be pretty easy to convince somebody that dating a psychopath murderer that murders police officers in which you were affiliated with is probably unconstitutional.
Honestly, that could even be SOPs, no? As well? Like,
Well,
the same
you'd think
way
so.
you can define, yeah, that you can all date within the workplace. You could define that you're not allowed to operate as a police officer while dating a cop killer.
Well, it's all dependent on the words, yes, but
Mhm.
there's always going to be an argument from the other side. Can you prove that this altercation has created more murders, or has it actually created more conflict? Is there evidence of? And if not, then I'm not sure. You know, it would be up to you people to decide. Pass the legislation, see what happens.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
You have the
Any
power.
any other
Uh,
questions, guys?
uh, no, but I have
No, I don't
here,
think so. Well,
Mr. Governor. I
Assault
have a
things.
parting gift.
oh,
It's what,
Oh yes.
Oh,
The justices do not have
Oh,
any
thank you.
access over marshal reports. They cannot view them.
Well, again, this is all. I don't know the ins and outs of legislations, but if law is written that it is like that, then so be it. The reality of
isn't
all
any
this
law, though.
is, well, if it's not written, there's nothing to say it is or isn't a problem. Correct?
Okay.
It works both
I
ways,
see what you're
if
saying.
that makes sense. In saying that, like I said, there's a very good argument always to the Constitution and the backbone to the legal system. If you can argue a point, maybe you can pass legislation to change things, but at the same time, proof. If they can show that they've diminished crime or done something good, can you show the opposite? I
think the issue
believe
we're running
what needs to
into,
happen
right.
is legislation needs to be much more understood and streamlined and easy.
God, if only. Yeah.
It shouldn't have got to the point it has, but it happens. Law is slow, but hopefully the systems that we focus on, or you focus on, is to try and speed things up and make sure, you don't have to wait a month for something to change that we believe should be changed a lot sooner.
The issue we're running into is, I guess, who makes the definitive decisions, because we run into situations where everything is, I don't, misunderstood's the incorrect word. Different people determine different language to mean different things. It might be extremely clear for everyone in the Department of Justice that something means one way, but everyone in the mayor's office might see it a different way. That's an extreme example, but we're struggling to figure out where to actually land if there are those disagreements. I would rather not just, swing our dick around and say that their interpretation is wrong. But how do we actually come to that agreement?
I suppose it would be in which circumstance? Are you implying that maybe somebody else was to write legislation that contradicted your belief in the medical field, or just legislations in general? In which circumstance? Could you give me an example of how you mean?
I suppose an example would be right now with Pred being removed. Our understanding would be that that was backed by legislation, and in our discussions, that was an agreement made by the majority of the Department of Justice. However, I don't think it was unreasonable, the points that both Nino and Nai have made here, that they believe that that meant something different. It's just two different understandings of the same writing
Yes.
that makes that actual determination.
Well, like I said, I think the reality is there's a lot more power within your people's reach that you understand you have, and I believe a part of that was to do with what I believe was misinterpretations of how the law was intended to be. But
Sure.
I believe if the justices and you were to agree that it would be incorrect, like I said, as a vote, then it could be the legislation could be removed, revoked, whatever. In saying that, if there is a dispute or contest, I believe something like this would. It should go to a process where it is either passed on to a neutral group or some sort of like formal discussion where other people could be here instead of us sitting in a circle and not having other input to fairly
Sure.
understand people's input. For instance, the old mayor that wrote it, asking them how they believed it should be interpreted and whatnot is a pretty big factor to how the law is meant to be understood as well. So I think there should be discussions with groups around, and then a logical conclusion should be drawn. And
Fair
if
enough.
it's disputed, then yes, so be it. And
Alright,
honestly,
so it sounds like it can be.
yes,
Okay, fair enough.
the council thing, while you did laugh, I believe is actually a good mentally a good way of looking at this mentally. It was a system that worked, just had power
Yeah.
dynamics that were improper, but you can all be
Yes.
impeached, you can all be charged, you can all
Yeah.
have your shit ruined. So if
Of
you were to
course.
do it properly like that, I don't see it being any different from the systems in which you're here. Working together with each other is probably going to be more valuable for everybody, but yes, in saying that, you don't have to do it that way, and doing it how it is also fine. Just whatever makes things work better.
All right. Well, I'm happy to keep working with everyone as best we can.
Sure. Well, like I said, I don't plan to do anything with the Mr. Pred situation. You all have the power within yourselves to do what needs to happen or what you believe is right or the people believe is right. So you should focus on that and do it that way and just, I guess, see where it ends up.
All right. Fine.
Blaine County is a
Thanks so
shithole
much.
anyway. Who really cares?
I do not disagree.
I would also agree.
I also agree.
Who wants it?
Yeah, it's a waste of money. Meth heads and
Absolutely.
caravans. Wahoo. All right.
It's too damn sandy and warm.
Well, if you guys do have a discussion, I would emphasize perhaps talking with all the justices and the mayor at once if possible. And if, again, you cannot come to a conclusion
This
or
is
it
the entire
seems-
body right now.
This
This is
all of it,
everybody.
other than Angel,
This
who's
is
currently
all
on
of us.
LOA. That's
Well,
2 out of 3 just-
I think it's
on
probably good that
LOA
the Justice
justice?
2 talks to his team as well to make sure, everything is
I'm also a
understood.
justice
Not on
still.
LOA.
Yes.
Oh, I apologize.
Yes.
Well, I thought that maybe you were both medical. I believe that I'm old, so I believe that could be me being
It's
sexist. I was
alright.
born
I
in like
wrote
the
the medical
20s, I
portion of the
believe.
Constitution.
Hold on a second. When was I born?
No, it's actually
Oh,
yes.
very absolutely of you
Yes.
to
No,
think that we would be
absolutely.
both
Oh my God.
doctors.
48.
Mhm.
My
Very
Mine is
my
fake
apologies.
official. Okay.
No, I have a British accent, not a southern one. That's the mistake.
Yeah. She reminds me of Cantor, but no, that's not Cantor. That's the Justice.
No, we'll absolutely talk these things through. Thank you so much for your help, sir.
Yes, no problems. Well, yes, okay. Hopefully you can work it out. And again, if there's a meeting that you guys would like to have where it can be discussed a little more thoroughly, I wouldn't mind being there as long as my passport isn't revoked again. But we shall see. It's
Okay.
it
Well,
was the
hopefully with that
CIA
fancy
or
badge,
something.
they'll
The
just wave you in.
CAIFB. I don't know. Either way,
The FIB, there's been some shady things happening there. We'll go check it out for you.
yes. Fantastic. Okay. Well, have a good day. And if you see any of those saucers flying around, they are actually drones. They are not any sort of reptiles, space
Okay.
creatures, googly-eyed aliens with large heads that look like the pharaohs from Egypt. Nothing like that.
Okay.
They are just drones, and they make no noise because it's new. New technology, not from aliens. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Good day.
So,
Also, sorry, I do remember an email from you, Mr. Mayor, something about you have $300 million in the bank account. Is that correct?
No, it's 250 million, I believe.
Okay, minus the
I'm,
government
looking to get that,
taxes, you have about 125, I believe.
Oh, I
Taxes.
Oh, this is
the
very
taxes.
good. And I think you got a property for me that needs to be opened up.
$150 million, and you also pay 125 in taxes. Well, what is that? What does that equal? $275 million, right?
That is right.
Can you afford it?
But the buildings?
Yes. 200. Well, you have to pay the government tax. Now that you've thrown papers on the table, you see, when the state gets involved in situations, we are now tied and we have to get paid. And my what's my
Absolutely.
payment?
Oh,
I think I
he's
get $10 million per month
That makes
is my
sense.
salary. And
Oh
since
my
there's
God.
no other counties in the state that really make money, I guess you have to front it. So
Oh my god, I only make
Yeah,
700
I got
an
you.
hour.
I'll
What the hell?
send you a little thingy and we'll get it all sorted.
Yes, Jeff Bezos is a pussy compared to me. I'll see you around.
I
someday.
believe it.
He
Oh,
is.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, he
Thank
actually makes more
you.
than me. Bye.
Give me a raise,
Pending
please.
case.
Oh
well, but it's a
man, it
pending case
stinks
that's
in
out of
there. Don't go
statute.
in there. Trust me.
Oh,
Like what?
Dust. Old people. Miserable people. People without enough money.
Damn it.
Weren't you born in 1948?
Hey, fuck you.
Fair.
Meeting adjourned.